It looked like Caitlin Clark has landed a huge win against the WNBA, and we're talking Goldman Sachs, baby. Yes, Goldman Sachs has purchased XL. Wall Street has entered into the mix, and they not dumb enough to let anybody mess with their golden.
Something massive just happened behind closed doors. Something that could end years of quiet mistreatment and change everything we know about women's basketball. A billion-dollar player just got billion-dollar protection. Because when Wall Street walks onto the court, even the referees start paying attention. This isn't a rumor, this is real. And it all leads back to Caitlin Clark. For months, the WNBA has been drowning in headlines. Questionable officiating, secret meetings, and a storm of controversy surrounding the league's brightest star. Caitlin Clark went from being the most celebrated rookie in history to the most targeted player on the floor. Every shove, every no call, every cold comment, it felt like the league was daring her to break. Fans were furious, sponsors were confused, and silence from the top only made it worse. But while everyone argued on social media, something was happening far away from the cameras, something powerful enough to flip the entire narrative overnight. At the center of that storm was Caitlin's own representation. Her agent, Aaron Kane of XL Sports, had built a reputation for landing big names but not for fighting public battles. Many fans wondered, why isn't anyone standing up for Caitlin? The disrespect, the rough play, the league's selective discipline, it all kept piling up. Critics said XL wasn't protecting her brand the way a superstar deserved, and some insiders whispered that Caitlin might be planning to leave her agency altogether. But before she could even think about walking away, the ground beneath that agency began to shake. Online debates exploded. Should Caitlin join Clutch Sports, the same empire that manages some of basketball's biggest names? Clutch was known for aggressive protection and iron-tight brand deals. On paper, it made perfect sense. But Caitlin didn't make any sudden moves. Instead, she waited, quietly watching the board, like a chess player letting the other pieces fall into place. And then, out of nowhere, the biggest move of all landed right in her lap. XL Sports, the very agency critics accused of going soft, was suddenly bought out in a deal so large it sent shockwaves through both Wall Street and the WNBA. The buyer? Goldman Sachs. Yes, the same Goldman Sachs that finances nations, that sits behind trillion-dollar decisions, just took control of Caitlin Clark's sports agency. Overnight, her management went from small market to Wall Street-backed. Billion-dollar firms don't play favorites, they play to win. And the moment Goldman signed the papers, the league's treatment of its biggest draw instantly became a financial risk, not a storyline. So why would one of the most powerful banks in the world suddenly care about a WNBA agency? Because the numbers don't lie. Women's basketball has become one of the fastest-growing markets in global sports, with Caitlin Clark as its nucleus. Every ticket, every broadcast, every endorsement with her face on it multiplies in value. Goldman saw not just a player, but an ecosystem. And when Wall Street smells growth, it doesn't just invest, it takes control. But there was another reason too. Something personal. Something that tied Caitlin Clark and Goldman Sachs long before this billion-dollar move ever happened. A year earlier, Caitlin Clark had been invited by Goldman Sachs to speak at a private leadership summit, one that brought together athletes and executives shaping the next decade of sports business. She didn't just show up, she impressed everyone in the room. They saw the same thing millions of fans saw every night: grit, charisma, and market power wrapped into one person. So when Goldman's executives started planning their next sports acquisition, Caitlin's name was already on their list. This wasn't random. It was loyalty meeting opportunity, a long game finally paying off. Once the sale became public, the ripple effect was immediate. Sources said tension built inside XL's offices. Who would stay, who would go, and how the new owners would reshape the hierarchy. Aaron Kane's critics started whispering again. Would she even keep her position? For Caitlin Clark, though, the shift was perfect. She didn't have to demand better treatment. Her new backers demanded it for her. Because Goldman Sachs doesn't tolerate inefficiency, and they definitely don't tolerate losing money. Protecting Caitlin was now protecting the investment. And suddenly, the most criticized agent in the WNBA was answering to the most powerful company on Wall Street. This buyout wasn't just a business deal, it was a warning shot. When Goldman Sachs enters a space, every rule changes. Refs, executives, even the commissioner now knew. Caitlin Clark wasn't just a player anymore. She was a billion-dollar asset under corporate protection. Every flagrant foul, every suspicious whistle, it all carried new risk. Wall Street's patience is shorter than any player's temper. The message was clear. Handle her wrong, and you're not just upsetting fans, you're upsetting investors. Caitlyn didn't post victory photos or fiery statements. She didn't need to. The silence itself became a statement. Behind the scenes, her team was renegotiating contracts, structuring new endorsements, and building a brand so strong that even league officials had to adapt. While others played checkers, she was running a corporate chessboard. She understood something most athletes never do, that the real power in sports isn't fame, it's leverage. And now she had it. Inside the Fever organization, a change in energy was already visible. Coaches, referees, even media members seemed cautious. The reckless physicality that once followed Caitlyn around suddenly cooled. People knew that any mistreatment could become a PR and financial nightmare. For the first time since she entered the league, she wasn't playing defense off the court, she was dictating it. Goldman Sachs had made sure of that. With Wall Street backing her agency, Caitlyn Clark joined a list of icons. Tiger Woods, Derek Jeter, names that turned sports into empires. But this time, the face of that empire was a woman leading an entire generation. Sponsorships that once hesitated now lined up. Broadcast partners increased budgets. Merchandise flew off shelves again. This wasn't hype, it was a rebirth. The same player they tried to humble had just become untouchable. Goldman Sachs isn't sentimental, it's strategic. Once they invest, they guard their assets relentlessly. Expect tighter contracts, stricter league oversight, and more polished media narratives. In other words, the WNBA just got a new referee, and it's wearing a suit, not stripes. And if anyone thought they could keep roughing up the league's most valuable player, they're about to find out what financial accountability really means. Fans online couldn't believe it. One day they were begging for Caitlyn Clark to get protection, the next day Wall Street had delivered it. Memes, tweets, videos, all celebrating her revenge arc. The sentiment was clear. Finally, the league's biggest star was getting the backing she deserved. Some even joked that Goldman Sachs did more for player safety in 1 week than the league office had in 2 seasons. But beneath the humor was relief. People finally felt like the system was balancing itself out. Next season could look nothing like the last. Rumors are already swirling about new league leadership, updated officiating standards, and expanded broadcast deals. Sponsors tied to Goldman Sachs are rumored to be negotiating major partnerships with the WNBA, something that could flood the league with new money and force transparency. And at the center of it all will be the player who started the storm by simply refusing to back down. Caitlyn Clark isn't just rewriting her own story, she's rewriting the entire league's. In sports, emotion drives the game, but money drives the outcome. Every storyline, every scandal, every comeback, it all comes down to who holds the power. And now, for the first time, that power has shifted toward the player. Caitlyn Clark went from being the league's lightning rod to its golden standard. And if history has taught us anything, it's this. When Wall Street backs a movement, the game never stays the same. Because when you follow the money, you find the truth. If you think this is just the beginning of something bigger, you're absolutely right. The next chapter is already being written, and you'll want to be here when it breaks.